In the future, there's a very good chance you'll all be eating this little guy. Not because of force or famine, but most likely because he'll be the trendy, privileged source of protein. Right now, some of the foods we love, or desperately want but can't afford, have had absolutely crazy career upgrades. To see how that happened, we need to take a little trip back in time. Antoine Augustin Parmentier, born in 1737, a French pharmacist and nutrition nerd, is the unlikely hero of our story. In the 7 Years' War, he's serving as an army pharmacist, spending his days patching up soldiers and counting gunpowder burns instead of pills. Back in France, the potato has terrible PR. In the 1700s, many doctors and priests call it a devil's root. They blame it for leprosy, poisoning the blood, even madness. In some regions, it's banned for humans and downgraded to pig food. Respectable people don't eat potatoes. They avoid them. Then Parmentier gets captured by the Prussians. He's thrown into a prisoner of war camp, and the menu is very simple. Potatoes for breakfast, potatoes for lunch, potatoes for dinner. The devil's vegetable is all he gets. And instead of dropping dead, he notices something awkwardly funny. The cursed food from back home is keeping him alive. While the war rages outside, inside the prison he's basically on an accidental, all-potato-tasting menu. Parmentier decides it's payback time. If the potato saved his life, he's going to save the potato's reputation. He writes reports, does experiments, serves fancy potato dinners to important people, and most of France still goes, "You, pig food." So he changes strategy. Near Paris, he plants big fields of potatoes on royal land and asks the king for a little help. Soldiers are posted all around the fields, guarding them like treasure. The message to the public is clear. Whatever that is, it must be valuable. Then Parmentier gives the soldiers a quiet instruction. Guard them strictly by day and be a little bit sleepy at night. Pretty soon, curious Parisians are stealing potatoes in the dark, smuggling them home and planting them everywhere, exactly as Parmentier planned. And of course, gossip did the rest. If the king's soldiers are guarding it, it must be priceless, people thought. So everyone suddenly wanted their own forbidden potato. Parmentier finally wins the hearts and stomachs of Paris with a humble tuber. And just as France is falling in love with potatoes, a disaster is about to show up and change the fate of the world. Just as Europe was minding its own business in 1783, a volcano in Iceland decided to cosplay as the end of the world. Its name was Laki. Not huge like a classic cone, but a long crack in the earth that erupted for about 8 months straight. Lava fountains, endless explosions, and a massive toxic cloud pouring into the sky. That cloud, rich in sulfur and ash, spread over the North Atlantic and drifted across Europe as a strange, dry fog. People said the sun looked pale blue or blood red. The air smelled like acid, and metal literally tarnished in their hands. In Iceland, things were brutal. The haze poisoned grass and water, animals dropped dead in huge numbers, and famine followed the dying herds. Even far away, in Britain and France, people reported burning eyes, coughing fits, ruined harvests, and weirdly cold weather. One volcano, erupting for months on a remote island, quietly turned itself into a climate event big enough to nudge all of Europe. When crops failed and bread became a luxury, the humble potato quietly turned into a lifesaver. Cheap, filling, and almost impossible to kill in the ground. People had more energy left for something dangerous, being angry at the monarchy. High taxes, bad grain policy, and a royal court living like it's another planet. In the end, the potato didn't start the French Revolution, but it did something almost as explosive. It kept enough people alive and strong enough to actually show up for it. In the end, the French didn't just fall in love with potatoes, they even invented a faster way to slice them. The guillotine. Totally for potatoes, of course. Definitely not for politicians. Now you're probably wondering, well, wait, weren't we supposed to be talking about bugs? Where's the insect part? First, let's start with the bug in the ocean. When Europeans came to North America, they found the shores crawling with what they called the cockroach of the sea, lobsters. They washed up in huge piles after storms, so common you could rake them up with a shovel. Lobster used to be the opposite of luxury. On the early American coast, it was so common and so cheap that it was seen as a trash food for prisoners, servants, and the very poor. In some colonies, there were even rules and complaints saying, "Don't feed lobster to servants or prisoners more than 3 times a week. It's cruel." When people didn't want to eat it, they didn't throw it a party, they threw it on the fields. Lobster was used as fertilizer or animal feed, and huge piles were left to rot on farms, spreading a giant, disgusting, fishy smell everywhere. Once railroads spread across North America, something funny happened. For the first time, people far from the coast could be fed cheap seafood from the shore. Nobody in the inland cities knew it was prison food from the beach. On trains, company chefs started serving it as a special seafood dish in dining cars. white tablecloths, nice plates, a window view, and a fancy menu name. And suddenly passengers thought, wow, this must be something exclusive rich people eat on the coast. From there, Lobster rode the tracks straight into big city kitchens, grand hotels and luxury restaurants. Places like the Ritz began putting lobster on elegant menus next to champagne and silver cutlery. If the emperor eats it, it must be good. But if the rich eat it, it must be amazing. That's how foods once hated, banned, and not even good enough for prisoners somehow became heroes on golden plates. But our main hero is just entering the stage. Coming soon to a fancy menu near you, Bugman. The FAO warned that by 2050, the world's population will reach nearly 10 billion, and our current food systems won't keep up. Climate change, limited water, and declining soil productivity are pushing traditional agriculture to its breaking point. Conventional crops are now like tired runners still running, but struggling to match the pace of a changing world. Productivity is falling, costs are rising, and the system is losing stability. The FAO's proposed solution: insect protein. Small, sustainable, and scalable insects may become a key early answer to the coming food gap. Scientifically, insects show a clear nutritional advantage. Most edible insect species contain 55 to 70% protein by dry weight, compared to 25 to 30% in beef. They also contain all 9 essential amino acids in ratios comparable to, and in some cases, superior to, soy or chicken. On the micronutrient side, insects routinely show 2 to 4 times more iron than beef, significantly higher zinc levels, and strong concentrations of B12, riboflavin, and folate. Some mealworm species even match the omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acid balance found in fish oils. Overall, insects provide a high-density, complete nutrient profile with far fewer calories from fat, making them one of the most efficient biological protein sources known today. Water and carbon data show a dramatic difference between beef and insects. Producing just 1 kilogram of beef requires about 15,000 liters of water, while most insect farms need 1,500 liters or less, roughly a 10-fold reduction. The carbon footprint follows the same pattern. Beef production releases up to 27 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of meat, while insect proteins typically produces 2 to 3 kilograms. But the biggest gap appears in methane. Cattle generate large amounts of CH4 through enteric fermentation. Methane is 28 times stronger than CO2 as a greenhouse gas. Insects, however, produce virtually zero methane because their digestive system doesn't rely on microbial fermentation. Taken together, insects offer one of the lowest water, carbon, and methane footprints of any protein source known today. Cows produce methane because their 4-chambered stomach works like a natural fermentation tank. Bacteria inside the rumen break down plant fibers and release methane as a byproduct, which the cow then emits into the atmosphere. Over the first 20 years, it traps up to 84 times more heat than CO2. So even though it stays in the atmosphere for a shorter time, its warming effect is fast, intense, and immediately damaging over the first 20 years. It traps up to 84 times more heat than CO2. Because insect farming produces virtually zero methane, it removes one of the fastest warming factors from the food system entirely. With no methane escaping into the atmosphere, far less heat is trapped, and the climate warms more slowly. This makes insect protein not just efficient to grow, but one of the few scalable food sources that can actually help cool the planet instead of heating it. The European Union officially approves 4 edible insects for the market: mealworms, crickets, grasshoppers, and buffalo worms. All passed strict safety tests and are now legally sold as high-protein food across Europe. In many cultures, insects are seen as disgusting, while in others they're completely normal, and the difference isn't biological, it's cultural. Babies don't fear insects at all. Disgust is something we learn from the people around us. Scientific studies show that the only fear humans reliably have from birth is the fear of heights. Or maybe it all goes back to our delivery day. Who knows what kind of emotional damage we got from that stork drop-off? Escargot has been a respected part of French cuisine for centuries, proof that almost anything can become gourmet if the culture around it says so. Today, the same shift is happening with insects. Chefs in high-end haute cuisine restaurants are turning crickets and mealworms into fancy-tasting menu dishes, just like snails once made their climb from "huh" to bon appétit. And Hollywood has joined the trend too. Angelina Jolie, Nicole Kidman, and others casually eating insects on camera as if it's the most normal thing in the world. Sounds familiar, right? Yesterday's no way becomes tomorrow's delicacy. It's all perception. At least for now, even if it adds extra protein, the bug that shows up in your soup still isn't included in the bill. The real reason behind this whole story is actually the Veblen effect. In short, some products become more desirable as their price goes up. Not because people need them, but because they want the status that comes with them. Here's the example. Two identical shoes on screen. One costs $1, the other $100. And guess which one everyone rushes toward? Exactly, the expensive one. People buy it believing they've leveled up socially, even though the shoe itself is the same. What they're really buying is a psychological status upgrade. And the same thing happens with matcha and avocados. Products with low intrinsic value suddenly become prestige symbols just because society treats them that way. It's not about real quality. It's about being seen with the right item. In economics, there's a simple rule. A product's value comes from its cost and its usefulness. But when the Veblen effect enters the room, that rule gets flipped upside down. Because the Veblen effect says this: it's not the product that sells, it's the eyes looking at it. A shoe doesn't need to be better, it just needs to look more expensive. That price tag suddenly becomes a status badge. Normally, when prices go up, demand goes down. But with Veblen goods, the opposite happens. As the price rises, demand rises too. People believe the expensive option is a level-up ticket. And this is where logic quietly leaves the conversation. Economics explains behavior with rational decision-making, but the Veblen effect looks at rationality and laughs, because you explain economics with logic, but Veblen is powered by ego. In the end, it's never just about the shoe, the drink, or the bug protein. It's about who we want to appear as in other people's eyes. Economic behavior doesn't change, only the packaging does. Speaking of economics, today's edible insect market is a $3 billion industry, and by 2030, it may climb close to $10 billion. So what does that mean? Simply this. In the near future, don't be surprised if you look around and see traditional farms standing right next to shiny new eco-bug farm signs. Because in the end, it's not the future that's changing, it's our appetite. And the moment we accept that, the menu of the world changes with us. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button and share it with the people you care about, so the light of science can reach everyone.